Today, I'm sharing 3 big reasons why retirees overpay your favorite uncle, who's the IRS, and what you can do before it's too late. I'm Kyle Hammerschmidt, and on this channel, I try to help self-made 401k and IRA millionaires keep more and pay less in taxes. Let's dive into the real reasons why retirees get burned by taxes and how to build a better retirement with fewer surprises. So reason number 1 is taxes could be your biggest expense in retirement. I want to be honest, most retirement plans are built to defer taxes, not to reduce them. I call this the deal with it later plan. If you think about it, for 30 plus years, you've been told to max out your 401k, don't touch your money, defer income, reduce your taxable income today, you're going to retire in a low tax bracket. And that made a lot of sense while you were working. But the people we talk to and work with, this approach is playing right into Uncle Sam's playbook. But now you're approaching retirement, a couple years, 5 to 10, and all that money you saved is in tax deferred accounts. And all that money you saved in your tax deferred accounts, the IRS is waiting patiently for you to take this money out so they can get their cut. So the red flag really no one talks about. Almost 60% of our current clients left their previous advisor to work with us. If your current advisor is only talking about diversifying your investments, but never talks about diversifying your tax buckets, that's a huge red flag. I'm not afraid to cast a light on the financial industry because I'm very passionate about guiding those who are looking for a partner, even if it's not with us. Why? Because not all advisors and firms are created equal. Here's what I see way too often. A couple walks into our office, maybe they have $3 million saved. This took patience, diligence, and lifestyle sacrifices along the way. But 90% is in pre-tax IRAs and 401ks, and they don't really have a savings problem. They're aware of that. But they have no Roth strategy, no pensions, no Social Security strategy. Their advisor's plan at the time was, you look good, take what you need, and we'll rebalance you annually. But here's what the deal with it later approach misses. The IRS will force withdrawals through RMDs at 73 or 75, which means more income in your later years versus your go-go years. And those withdrawals can push them into much higher tax brackets at that time. They could trigger IRMA surcharges, which will raise your Medicare premiums by thousands of dollars per year. From a high level, this will increase Medicare premiums by $80,000 to $120,000 each, just based upon their life expectancy. And they'll likely pay more tax on their Social Security, which means more shares are needed to be sold from the portfolio. This isn't a worst case scenario. This is exactly what happens when there's no proactive retirement tax strategy in place, especially for those with 7-figure 401ks and IRAs. Uncle Sam is not a silent partner. If you're not careful, Uncle Sam becomes your largest retirement beneficiary. So let's say you have $2 million in your 401k. Unfortunately, that $2 million is not really all of yours because when you go to use it, you'll be taxed on every dollar. And let's just assume a blended tax rate of 25% in retirement. That's $500,000 earmarked for the IRS. What if tax rates ever go up in the future? Well, you could be giving away even more. Now imagine that same $2 million you had strategically converted over the years to the Roth, even converting $100K per year over the next decade, done correctly and spent correctly, could save you hundreds of thousands in future tax, Medicare, and Social Security surprises. Also, the impact it provides for that surviving spouse and beneficiaries. So there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that math can't quantify. Here's the shift you need to make, and here's what we tell our clients. You don't just need an investment strategy and a diversified pie chart. You need a withdrawal strategy. You need a way to avoid underspending in your early years by not following something like the 4% rule that was designed for someone retiring in 1990. Maybe smooth out future tax brackets, minimize the impact of required minimum distributions, avoid Medicare cliffs, and control how much tax you can pay and when you pay it. This is what we do every day. We have a system called the 5-seed system. It's a framework specifically designed for 401k and IRA millionaires like you. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a tax plan, even the best investment strategy will leave you exposed. So the bottom line here on this is you didn't work 30 plus years, save diligently, skip luxuries just to hand a third of your savings or more back to Uncle Sam. You deserve to retire on your terms and keep more of what you've earned. Taxes aren't just a footnote in retirement planning. They are the biggest line item. Reason number 2 is the tax surprises no one talks about or warns you about. There are 7 common tax surprises that catch 401k and IRA millionaires off guard. Tax surprise number 1 is not all incomes taxed the same, and taxes don't retire when you do. neither do the rules for how different income sources get taxed. It's very common. Without planning, you could accidentally trigger more tax than necessary just because of where your income came from, and it shows on your tax return. Tax surprise number 2 is like what we call the RMD, the forced withdrawal. The bigger your IRA and 401k, the bigger the forced withdrawal and the tax bill that comes with it. That can mean getting pushed into a higher tax bracket in your later years and paying more for your Medicare with post-tax dollars. Tax surprise number 3 is today's rates simply won't last forever. I just want to make this announcement. Taxes matter than most people realize. No one knows exactly where tax rates are going, but just speaking where we're at today and historically, today's rates are amongst the lowest we've seen in decades. The recent tax law passed quietly opened the door to tax planning strategies most IRA millionaires will miss because they missed the first opportunity. Now they have a second opportunity. Tax surprise number 4, the tax burden your family inherits. With the new rules of Secure Act 1 and 2, it changes the way your beneficiaries will inherit your money. So here's what happens. If a spouse gets it, there's a temporary break, but once they begin RMDs, and especially filing single, not joint, they're going to be bumped up into a higher bracket for the remaining of their years. And if your kid or non-spouse inherits it, they now have to go under the 10-year rule to empty out that inherited IRA. That's $1 million inheritance gone in 10 years, every dollar taxed as ordinary income, often when they're in their peak earning years. So that inheritance can shrink by 40 to 50%. And if tax rates go up, it's even worse. What was meant to be sometimes a legacy becomes a massive tax bill. Tax surprise 5 is just like the Medicare and Social Security squeeze. Most retirees expect to pay some taxes, but few realize that their tax return is tied to things like Social Security and Medicare. Up to 85% of your Social Security benefits can be taxed. They don't have to be through tax strategy, but higher income triggers IRMA surcharges, which spike your Medicare premiums. Number 6, no tax diversification. I see this a lot. So let me ask you something. What happens when everything is saved in tax-deferred accounts? You get funneled into a single direction where every dollar you withdraw in retirement is fully taxable. We see this constantly with diligent savers who crushed it in their working years saving, but now face the steep taxes in retirement because they only saved in traditional 401ks and IRAs. Then the critical 15, that's 5 years before retirement and the first 10 years after. This is your golden window, the most important tax planning runway of your life. If you wait too long, the options start to shrink pretty fast. And number 7 is using like a 1990s withdrawal plan. Too many retirees are using out-of-date retirement strategies like the 4% rule, or let's live off interest, or let's avoid touching the principal because what if we live too long? But for self-made 401k IRA millionaires, this often means working longer than necessary, underspending in early retirement, and leaving a massive overtax balance behind. Let's be honest, the 4% rule was built for retirees in 1990, not for families with 2 to 5 million in retirement. Today, fear-based planning leads to regret. Using out-of-date rules or like fear-based planning just really leads to regret-based outcomes. You just need flexible income plans that adjust for taxes and timing and opportunity, not just like a static withdrawal percentage. You won't see these on a pie chart. You won't hear from them from a 1-800 advisor, but they are real and they will cost you if you don't plan ahead. Reason number 3 is most advisors don't actually do tax planning. So here's the kicker. Most people have an advisor, aren't getting real retirement advice, they're getting investment management, and that's not enough. Why? Because real retirement planning includes projected tax maps year by year, strategic Roth conversion planning every single year, and you need to figure out how to coordinate decisions across Social Security, Medicare, and your withdrawal strategy. And I always say this, like working with an advisor who doesn't start by reviewing your tax return is like seeing a doctor who ignores all of your labs and vital signs and still prescribes the treatment. It's how smart people end up with massive unnecessary tax bills in retirement. And I believe you didn't save this much to cross your fingers, and hopefully it all works out at tax time. So here's 3 truths. Taxes approaching retirement and in retirement should not be secondary. They are central. Number 2, the earlier you plan, the better your outcome's gonna be. Number 3, you do not need to be a tax expert. You just need a plan. So now that you understand the importance of tax proofing your retirement, I think it's time to focus on what actually works, building a complete plan that protects what you've built and minimize future tax surprises. And if you want help creating that kind of strategy, one that works in real world, not just on paper, use the link in the description to book a fit call. We'll walk through your current plan, your tax exposure, and And we'll show you how our clients use the 5-seat system to connect their savings, income, healthcare, and taxes into one clear plan. Again, I'm Kyle Hammerschmidt. This is Tax Proof Your Retirement. If you're a self-made 7-figure savior, hit subscribe for more real strategies, not just rebalancing and pie charts. Again, thank you for watching. Now let's keep more of what you've earned.